Greetings, my brothers and sisters. Sending gratitude to all of you who are joining in today to accompany us down the rabbit hole of self-exploration through plant medicines. My name is Ryan Sprague, and I'm here to tell you that your frequency is now set and tuned to explore psychedelic medicines and the impact they've made among the countless psychonauts exploring the last true frontier. Buy a ticket and take the ride with me as we get true first-hand accounts of the experiences, benefits, risks, and transformations taking place within the ever-expanding world of psychedelic medicines on This One Time on Psychedelics. For anyone with eyes to see, it's no secret the world is changing at a rapid rate these days. From political hysteria to new technology emerging almost daily, it's safe to say that it's easier than ever to feel overwhelmed, while simultaneously doing your best to keep up. In my opinion, one of the most important and powerful aspects of the new world that we can take the initiative to dive into is the aspect and topic of decentralization. From medicine to money, community, and more, it's clear to me that if we want to get back to a world where health is truly about healing rather than sick care, and money is truly about freedom rather than dependence and imprisonment, then we must start looking at ways to become more and more decentralized from the centralized powers that have wreaked havoc over the lives of many in the world today. Now, today's guest on the show is a returning guest and a brother who is at the cutting edge of the decentralization movement. Over the last 2 years, he has taught me a lot about how to navigate within this space, and in this episode, we allowed the divine to take the wheel and went on an epic conversational dialogue on what these 2 years have looked like for each of us, what he sees the future looking like, what you can do to get involved, and much, much more. So please help me in welcoming my man, Amethyst Flame, back onto the show. Amethyst Flame, my dude, my day one motherfucker. I am so excited that you're here with me, dude. We just wrapped up an epic vision casting in the DAO, which we're both a part of, and I'd love to get into all those details, as I said in the intro. You know, Amethyst and I wanted to do this episode because there's been a lot going on that we've been collaborating and cross-pollinating on. And whenever I'm doing really cool stuff that I think you guys, the listeners, would want to know about, I want to share it with you guys. So Amethyst, before we get into all the juicy details of both of our lives, how are you doing today, brother?
Oh, I'm doing amazing. I'm really grateful to be here to build with you, bro. And, you know, in the time that we've known each other, to see how many shifts we've been through individually and then also navigating the wild shifts within the collective that are happening. Yeah, it's a blessing to be like on the other side of winter and spring here and stepping forward in this portal of rebirth and just continuing to build with amazing people.
Yeah, dude, 100% agreed. I couldn't have said it better myself. And, you know, it is an amazing feeling, like witnessing. And this is one of the reasons I think it's so important, that saying that we all hear, you are the collection of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Because for me, transformation, impact, all of these things that at one point I yearned for so much are now just simply my everyday reality. Because if it's not me going through it, it's Rachel, you, Chris August, or one of like my inner circle team that is inspiring me. And that's what we all do for each other, right? Like that's what real community is. It's about lifting each other up, calling each other forward, not calling each other out. But at the same time, like all rising together, because rising tides lift all ships, you know? And so it's been amazing to witness your transformation in the time we've known each other, which, I mean, dude, is really like 1.5 years, 2 years max, you know, since we were in the Sovereign Rangers together. I don't know if we've ever explained what the Sovereign Rangers is on a podcast together, but I think we should explain that, dude, so people know what we're talking about. What do you think?
Yeah, bro, it sounds perfect.
All right, sick. So I'll tell you guys what this is. Probably about 2 years ago, 1.5 years. Yeah, maybe 1 year and 3 months, actually. I was hanging out with Aaron Abkey, who's also been on the show. And me and my my ex-business partner, Alex Morningstar, still a great buddy of mine. Love that kid. We were both getting introduced to Jeremy Griffin and the sovereignty movement and crypto and Web3 and blockchain. And it's a lot. I mean, sovereignty in and of itself is a rabbit hole that is like, I mean, it's like a fun house, dude. You know, like every time you think you just figured it out, there's a whole new leg that opens up in this, you know, gigantic thing that is sovereignty. And so Alex and I found quickly that, and also Aaron, like all these different people I was talking to at the time were realizing it's really fucking hard to be doing all the stuff we're doing and trying to figure this out alone. So Alex and I were like, what would it look like to start a group? So right around then was when I went down to do Breathe with Cannabis live at Aaron's house. Well, it was a 3-day event thing, but we went down to Aaron's house, me and Chris, and we stayed there for about a week or so. And we just had a blast hosting 3 live events. And I talked to Aaron about it, and he was like, dude, please, like I'm I'm hanging on for dear life here trying to figure this stuff out. And he's really adept at it. I mean, he can articulate this stuff way better than I can. But I was like, all right, let's start a group. So we started the group and called it the Mighty Morphin Sovereign Rangers because comedy is the universal language. And we started getting people in there. And the way that we kind of ran it, again, there was no real leader of the group, per se. We wanted it to be a community driven project. It was free to enter. There was no anything like that. But, people started inviting people in. And so at first I knew most of the people in there, and then it started to grow. And I kept seeing this name Amethyst pop up. And I was like, dude, I don't know if that's a guy, girl, I don't know, but they seem awesome. Like what they're talking about in here is next fucking level. I remember Alex and I being like, damn, whoever Amethyst is, that person's on a different level. And so you always stuck out in the group, and then life got a little crazier for me and I couldn't host as many calls in there and stuff. So, after a little while, I was realizing okay, the sovereignty thirst trap is just such a rabbit hole to go down. And it was taking up a lot of my time. And like I said before, every time I thought I had it figured out, another whole avenue would present itself. And the way that I typically learn is, say if I want to learn guitar theory, I want to learn all the aspects of what guitar theory is. And then I pick what I want to dive into first and I make a plan. So I kept trying to do that with sovereignty. I kept trying to be like, okay, this is the full scope of it. And then I would try to dive in. And as soon as I was trying to dive in, this whole thing that changes everything I thought I knew about it would pop in. And that's just what kept happening. And so at a certain point, I realized the bull run is coming. If I don't start learning about crypto, I'm going to be really annoyed with myself. So around that time, I had seen that we had started a crypto chat in the Sovereign Rangers. We had a lot of different chats in there. And you were leading the helm on that. And so I was talking with Alex and I was like, you know what? I need some more hand holding on this. I don't really learn well in gigantic, huge groups of hundreds of people. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to you. So I reached out to you and you're like, yeah, we're starting this container. And it was so fun because there was a lot of my homies in there. Jason Ganzu, who's been on the show 6 times or something like that. She, one of my students from the CCC, just amazing people. And in that 3 months that you ran that program, it just, it changed my life, And since then I've been, the other night I was bridging through different chains, just whatever, and it was dude, I remember when I used to be completely lost at this stuff. And now if I see a coin and I got to switch from the Binance network over to Phantom and I want to, use Ghosty or Houdini swap, I got it down now. And for those of you listening that know crypto, you may be like, whatever, that's nothing. But to me, it was really big. And so that's how we officially met and how I got into your container. And ever since then, we've just been collaborating and cross-pollinating. And now we're part of the DAO together that you began with the Unity codes. And that's been really cool. And it's just been awesome, man, And I'd love if you could share a little bit about what the DAO is, what the vision is, and what we've been working on collectively together, because I'm really excited about it, man. It's really coming together nicely. And I'd love if you could share what prompted you in Unity to want to start that and everything like that. And what is it now, actually, would be a good. What is up, family? I wanted to take a second while you're tuning in to tell you about an amazing new product I recently began using. Now, you guys know I do ads very rarely, and my promise to you is that anything I speak about is something I personally have found value in using regularly. Well, recently, I came across a company called Brain Supreme, who sells microdoses of mushrooms mixed with adaptogens, nootropics, and other additions as well. And even though I've microdosed off and on for years, I have never felt results like these. In only 2 weeks, I'm sleeping better, I have far less mind chatter, my ability to perform has exponentially improved, and best of all, the sense of inner peace I've been feeling is like nothing I've ever experienced in microdosing before. Right now, you can get 15% off of any of their products when you use code SPRAGUE15 at checkout. And to find out more about them and grab some for yourself, head down to the show notes for this episode and begin your journey into microdosing today. Now back to the show. Start.
Yeah. So, I want to start with where you started off with sovereignty, right? We came together in a space that's exploring sovereignty. And I got a great teaching from a mentor of mine one time. And he goes, are you already sovereign in here? Because if you're sovereign in here, then your outer reality is going to reflect that. And yeah, there's so many areas that you can research and find your way and find pieces of truth and find processes that might have worked for someone, didn't work for someone else. And what I really came to is like a lot of that is based in the old way of paperwork and old agreements on the commerce side. And we're actually at a space where everything within quote unquote civilization, right, is being onboarded to the internet in the form of the blockchain. And I started to see it. I have some really good mentors in the space. I started to see it as people are talking about discharging credit cards and doing all the admin stuff, but you could come over here and know how to open a DeFi position and do discharge on your own. And when I got into Sovereign Rangers, I mean, it was, again, some people I was working with on credit funding brought me into there. And once I got in there, I saw, oh, wow, there's so much people in here sharing good information, but the crypto space, there's good info in there. It was just, I was like, I'm going to share what I know in here. And it was amazing to get to tap in with the people from that group in general. I mean, I've formed some really good relationships with people. I like friendships, brotherhood, sisterhood, like family working together as community, deep levels of trust. And you and I have that. And, you know, it was when Ryan stepped in, I was like, cause, you know, I'm like, get your mindset straight and then we'll talk about Web3. Because if your mindset isn't straight, you're not going to do well in that space. It's like amplify. It's very amplified. It can be very, very volatile. And when Ryan came in, I was like, bro, you already got the mindset down. Let's just skip right to crypto. And yeah, you know, really like, okay, a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. And what I'm really know a big piece of my mission is to help build community and help reclaim the village. You know, this template of humans living in cooperation with each other, not competition, for generations. And humans are the original decentralized tech on the planet. We're quantum biologic supercomputers that we don't all have to live in the same place. We don't all have to think the same thing. And if a portion of us go, the other portion will most likely be okay and carry forward. That's decentralization right there. So that's the original template. And I started to see, I've been, you know, a part of physical community for a number of years in different ways, and specifically in living with people and creating spaces for community to come together and being a part of other areas that, you know, community is called together in. And what I saw for myself is that there was a bit of I don't know if the word is a disconnect, but it was kind of like I saw in the digital realm, like we could quantum amplify things quicker. And where I am in the physical, there's a lot of amazing people here, but I didn't start to really tap in with people that were in the same way as me until I went on the digital side and started to build community over there. So the way I really see it is a DAO could be anything, right? You could think of it as the new corporation on the blockchain. Now it's not actually a corporation, right? But one could think of it like that. And it could be set up to function holding a treasury for a DeFi protocol, or, you know, you could put together something that has fractional real estate owning in a DAO. I see it really as it's a, you know, if we think about this, right, like we're in the 3D here. We know we're multiple dimensional beings, and we know that the virtual reality is a 2D form. It's built on zeros and ones. It's all technically flat. Like we can go in there and see the digital graphics and whatever, but it's flat. And so the awareness that like we're multidimensional beings fractaling down into a lower dimension, but that this dimension can have massive impact on the 3D realm that we're in. And there is a huge paradigm shift happening here on Earth. And there are powers that shouldn't be, that want to digitize the human in ways that are nefarious. And there are also ways that, why be afraid of tech that's invented by humans and essentially comes from crystals and electricity, right? That's what a circuit board is. It's crystals and electricity working together to create this tech. So as far as like building community, that's how I see DAOs being effective in the way that like I see that they can be worked with, is you can create a community to come together. And it could be a large community, it could be a small community, and basically, have a place that people agree to be in a certain way with each other and share a vision, share a goal, and work towards that together. And what I love about the digital space is we don't all have to be in the same space, and we don't all have to do it at the same time. And that I found has really allowed really rapid growth, because one person might have a lot of time on their hands and be available all the time, and somebody else doesn't. But when they do, it's very impactful what they offer. Now, all of us have our unique gifts. So I see that the Web3 is really a vehicle for anchoring into the physical what we can share as a vision in Web3. And as far as the DAO, I mean, right now the DAO is mostly just an invite only kind of think tank / community / builders group. And, the 3 core principles are rightful relations with creator, currency, and community, purpose-driven living your why, and generational responsibility. And 3 areas I'm very interested in that we focus on is DeFi, decentralized finance, AI, and RWA, which is real world assets. And yeah, my partner Unity, co-founder in the DAO that we brought together, we started working together last year. And what I saw in him was we share similar prayers, visions, and heart space about who we are, what we're doing here generationally. And also he was embodying a lot of what I had been learning in Web3 in a way that I've only seen a handful of people move on a very high level. So he and I started tapping in, and through Alex Morningstar, we did a vision casting. And from that vision casting, a vision emerged, and it very quickly anchored into reality. And, again, here it is, the fractals of source, the individuated fractals of source, working through the digital space to bring people, ideas, and energy together to affect change in the individual's experience and then collectively outward. Because we are in the paradigm shift. I like to call it the holy shift. And what I really feel about the holy shift is it's divine remembrance into divine appointment and service to divine order. So it's remembering that this isn't all of us. This is a piece of us. And when we remember that, we step forward into what our mission is. And in being in our mission, then we're living, ideally living in alignment with that natural law, divine order.
Dude, so powerful, dude, and so accurate. It's like this whole collaboration over competition thing is really front of mind and heart right now, or top of mind and heart, because, and I was saying this, was it yesterday? I think it may have been on the podcast yesterday with Rachel, but I think deep down, all of us know that the way we've been told to live life, the way we've been instructed to live life, the things we've been told that are important, et cetera, are, let's just say, a little bit off, right? And that's being extremely kind. And I think that low-level anxiety, that low-level discomfort is obviously looking to tell us something and show us something. It's kind of like, why as kids do we have sleepovers? Do we hang out all the time? Do we do all these things? And then when we become adulterated, all of a sudden, just what? None of those things matter anymore? It's like, I never got why sleepovers stopped happening. I never got why game nights stopped happening. Like, what, you think when you're an adult and you're working in a corporate office, you're not going to want to go play Manhunt? Like, come on, right? So at the end of the day, my whole mission in life has been no, I'm not going to live this boring life that society tells me I have to live. I'm going to fight for my right to party. No, I'm just kidding, but I had to throw it in there. But I'm going to fight for my ability to live the life that I know I'm meant to live, no matter who agrees with that or doesn't agree with it. Because at the end of the day, if I really believe something to my core, I don't need anyone else to agree with it. They cannot believe in my myth. I don't care. Doesn't matter. It's my myth. It's the one that I'm choosing to live through because it matters to me. And when you choose that and you make a choice, because again, you don't want to be, there's really no bad choice. The only bad choice I would say is not choosing, being in the sea of indifference. And so when you make a choice, one or the other, you're going to find people that resonate with you. But if you don't make that choice, which is where a lot of the clients I work with have been at in the past, where I was at in the past, you're kind of teeter-tottering behind this thing of do I want to live the life and take have the courage and bravery it takes to do my own thing? Or do I just want to take the quote unquote safe bet, which is a slow road to death, basically? And so for me, it was like, well, when I look at it that way, there's only one choice and I have no idea how I'm going to do it. But as long as I believe I can do it and I take the first step, the second one will appear as if out of magic. And that's exactly what Amethyst just went through and I just went through when we were explaining the Sovereign Rangers, Amethyst and I meeting, Amethyst meeting Unity, us all creating a DAO. Like, these things didn't happen from some spreadsheet that the first time I ever saw Amethyst's name, I was like, hey, you know what I think would be great? And I listed, like, that's not how life happens. I had to be willing to start a group for free because I wanted to learn about sovereignty. I took some calls for free because I loved doing it. It was no sweat off my back. But I didn't know where that group was going to lead. I didn't know if that group was going to turn into a multi-million-dollar thing or just whatever, or just friends hanging out. I didn't know. But I knew that I wanted to start a group, so I did it. And then the second step appeared as if out of magic, which is, holy shit, there are some absolute gangsters we're bringing together. And then through that, I met Amethyst, connected with him, got into his group, learned more about crypto. Now I'm fully invested in crypto. I feel so excited that the bull run is coming eventually. You know, that's a joke for all the crypto people. But you know, again, like, I feel so adept at working through Web3 and blockchain. And it's only because I realized I had a challenge with sovereignty and I wasn't going to figure it out myself. I had to have other people around me. So I just decided to create the group. I was like, fuck it, let's just do it. And through that, all of this manifested. We're doing this podcast here today because of that decision that I made to start the group, the decision you made to start your group, and the rest is history. And who knows where it goes from here? Like, this is just the beginning. We haven't even left Rivendell yet. We're still in the fucking Shire, you know, and on this epic fucking 3-movie quest, you know? And so at the end of the day, this is fun. Like, I was just telling you, Amethyst, before we hit record, like, my levels of enjoyment for my life are approaching a zone where I feel like I might just explode into a bunch of glitter bits or something. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm like, how do I hold this much joy in my nervous system? Like, I am just as happy waking up in the morning, eating food, working out, playing guitar, running my business. Like, it's all just like, it gets even better. It gets even better. Like, I remember when I worked at the dispensary, it would feel like 20 years to get through a 10-hour day. Now I feel like I blink and 10 hours went by. And I think of that as a really good sign, because when I was a kid, it was the same way. All of a sudden it'd be like, oh my God, it's 9 o'clock already. Oh no, I have to go to bed. You know, that's how it would be. So I take that as a huge success that I've somehow regressed my way back into, like, literally making my life feel like a fucking kid, you know? But also I can drive cars and do all the cool shit adults could do. So hashtag winning, as Charlie Sheen would say.
Yeah, I love that,
So
bro.
cool.
You know, I love to hear the way that you phrase that too. It's like, how much joy can my nervous system hold? And the trust to take that action and that step forward, right? And it's like, there's a big difference between analysis paralysis and striking at the moment that feels most aligned. Notice I didn't say striking at the exact right moment, because sorry, that rule, that playbook, I mean, you know, certain people who have achieved certain levels of mastery, they might have those keys to the playbook. You might get a glimpse like that every once in a while, but the majority of the time you're going off based off what feels most aligned. And I've heard it said about, like, the eagle, it flies up high. It has eyes that can see really far, like, I don't know, 2 miles, 5 miles, or 10 miles. Imagine how much that eagle's seeing when it's flying around. How many squirrels, how many chipmunks, how many fish, and how much opportunity it has to strike. But once it does strike, it's exposed, right? It's not a ground creature. It's a creature of the air. And when it comes down, if it gets the prey on the land, it's got to stay there and be able to eat it or get back up. If it misses, then it has to get back up and fly away. So I really feel that there's a lot of gems in what you're sharing about that. Like, be willing to take the first step forward, even if you don't know what the next step is. Hold that vision of what you feel it could be, right? It might not be, I'm going to join this group and it's going to lead to this exact thing. But, you know, I want to help educate people so they're empowered to do things that matter to them and help them be their best selves. Great. Okay, I have no idea what's happening, but I'm going to go down this way because it feels the most aligned. And when people are able to step forward like that in the space of trust, that's really when miracles happen. Because the whole thing is, it's about coming into the awareness that we have this and we're born into this, and the ego runs the ship from being born into it. And the ego's, it wants to be the one in charge, and it wants to, through the mind and thinking and thought patterns, think that the inner intention is what aligns all reality. But there's really a larger outer intention that flows to us, through us all at all times. And it's aligning with that through that first step of trust.
Dude, 100%. 100%. Like, I talk to a lot of people that are like, how do you architect your life? How do you create a life that you love? Any of these kind of like very big questions. And the number one piece of advice I always give is do what you say you're going to do. That will lead you to be who you actually are meant to be. And so, like, for instance, if you know that you're not making enough income, for instance, or the income you're making feels hellish to make because the job that you're working at you don't like, well, ultimately, you have two decisions. Deal with it and suck it up, which is not the right prescription, in my opinion, subjectively, or do something about it. So if you don't know where you want to go, any road will get you there. That's the great thing about this. And so if you know that you want to make a different type of income, maybe have a different job, but you don't really know what that is, then I tell everyone, go on YouTube and look up different ways to make money. Start there. That's what I did. I used to come home from the dispensary and just go upstairs and watch drop shipping videos and real estate arbitrage and all this kind of stuff. And, again, a lot of that information was really cool. What it taught me was that, I don't really want to do that right now in my life. But then I stumbled across a video of coaching and I was like, oh, that seems really cool. But I didn't think I could do it. It wasn't until I met Mark England and he pulled me into his program and I started to see things and he started to push me into this identity that was so foreign to me at the time. And now it's like my main identity I wear as the person that, serves others and helps them. It was just like, that all happened because I just went home and started watching YouTube videos. And that then led me to having a Kundalini awakening out in Vegas because I felt a little bit more confident about myself. I was like, all right, I'm going home and I'm learning new stuff every day. I don't know what this stuff's going to lead to, but I can confidently say when I put my head on the pillow that I'm doing something about the situation that I'm in that I don't want to be in anymore. And that right there alone will make you feel amazing about yourself. And the more you do that, the more you say, hey, every night when I get home at 6 p.m., I don't care what's happening. I'm going on YouTube, I'm watching those videos. And I'm going to keep doing it until the next step presents itself. When you make that kind of commitment to yourself, God responds. That famous quote from Terrence McKenna, I read it on last week's podcast with Rachel, so I won't read the whole thing, but nature loves courage. That's the whole entire idea of that quote, is nature loves courage. Because what is nature? It's you wishing and waiting for you to realize who you really are. And wishing for you to realize and waiting for you to realize that you've always had your own back, that you can trust yourself, that those who matter don't mind and those who mind don't matter. Like these things are echoed throughout all these different children's books and all these things, but it's a different thing to conceptually understand them or intellectually understand them. It's a totally different thing altogether to have an embodied experiential understanding of them. And I think that for a lot of people, including myself for quite a while, I was like, no, I'm going to have to go to some conference and meet some person and blah, blah, blah. I didn't think that it could just be me going home and watching videos on my computer that would do it, but it did. And I don't know if that'll be the path for everyone, but you do have somewhere you can start right now. For anyone listening to this, if you're resonating and being like, God, I want to do cool stuff, you already know a place you can start. Your brain's probably telling you, what will that do? That's not going to do anything. It's not about the actual thing. It's about committing to something new and sticking with it and showing yourself that you have what it takes to hold discomfort in your nervous system and continue moving forward anyway. And not buy into the shitty stories the ego creates that aren't real anyway. That's really all it is. I mean, again, simple, not easy. I'll say that. But if really that's all there is, then all you have to do is pick one new thing and stick to it, no matter what happens. And you will start building that confidence and faith in yourself, and that will lead to a totally different reality. And how long? I don't know. That's the mystery. But it will, for sure. Everyone I've done this with has a totally different reality now. I mean, it's actually wild, like witnessing some clients I've worked with for, about a year now and seeing how drastically different their life is. And it all started with just the number one thing they could think they would do. I have a client who, when I met him, he had just moved back from a different country and he was working at the family business again. And he was kind of feeling like, this is okay. But he's a Sagittarius. He's a fucking world traveler. He's an absolute savage when it comes to traveling. Like he could be an amazing travel coach. And And so we started talking, and I was like, well, what do you really love? And he's like, I really like making music. I was like, start there. So we started making some music and doing things like that, and that was feeling good. He was repping it and getting accountability, accomplished and everything. And then, he was working on some other challenges I'm not going to mention because it's private, but working on some other challenges, doing really well at it, having some hard conversations. And then I invited him to come out to an event with me, and he met a bunch of the crew from Enlifted and whatever. Totally changed his life. Totally changed his life. His life right now is totally different than it was a year ago. I mean, he started a podcast with one of the guys he met through the community, and they're having a fucking blast doing it. He's starting to open up to the idea of being a coach and actually getting into that. He's taking Enlifted. We're doing amazing work together. And you know what the best part is? All those decisions were just, what's the most fun thing I could do here? Boom, that. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. It was like, dude, really? We could do that? We could start oh my God, yeah, let's do it. Like, that's when you know you're on a good thread. When everything feels like you just got PlayStation 1 Christmas morning in 1998 or whenever that came out. So funny, dude.
Yeah, I like that analogy, and the velocity of it, right? There's this like concept of like wealthy people don't worry about how much they're making, but how fast they're making it, money velocity. And I think that with what Ryan's sharing, and also I want to tie in here like Web3, blockchain, AI, is that once you're willing to take that step and make that commitment, you have tools at your fingertips right now that humans have not had on Earth prior. Unless there's another age where AI already came up. And there's a solar, whatever, right? So then the codes were left in stones for us to find after the tech was disappeared. So all that's out there too. But what I'm saying is like, there's all these tools right now that exist that allow really quantum leveling up. And this is why I say foundationally is like, get the mindset straight, because when you enter into this space of the digital and you're drop shipping, credit card discharge, freedom, how to trade, there's all these things that you can see. I can get quick money, or I can do, and it's like, okay, yeah, but that's still the old scarcity template, right? We're in the shift, and the shift isn't about survival mode, it's about thrival mode. And that comes into cooperation over competition, as Ryan was sharing. I've heard him share it a lot lately, and it resonates strongly. And what that really means is acknowledging that we're all decentralized here on the earth, and what works for one group might not exactly work for the other, but there's a general code of ethics that we all abide by that doesn't put an individual first, hoarding resources over everybody else. Because let's just undo that scarcity template right now. I've heard you mentioned Aaron Abke before. Amazing, amazing brother. Love all the work that he does on YouTube. And I've been watching a lot of his stuff. He talks about the Essene. He's pulling out things that are actually what feels like the truth is within certain books compared to what's been presented. And I hear him talk about the ontology of God, and that basically the supreme truth is that God is all knowing, God is all being, and God is all powerful. If that's true, which how couldn't it be that there's one source of everything, then that one source is infinite. And if God is in everything, then everything has access to that source of the infinite. And so there's a scarcity template that's been imprinted upon humans over millennia, and it has evolved or devolved into humans equate value to made up numbers, right? That are attached to paper that they just print out as much as they want. And so it becomes, oh, well, I have to earn this much or this much. And when people step forward in the space of divine remembrance, it's what's bringing you joy? Where do you find play in? And I'll be honest, just because it's bringing you joy doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable. All this stuff, especially when you step into the quantum space of, quantum amplification within doing spirit work, doing work on the digital side, it's not always going to be comfortable. Things aren't always going to go the way that you want them to go. But when we're able to just say, hey, I know that I'm not in charge here. I know that I'm holding a vision of where I'd like to go. And I also know that I have a ton of amazing tools, one of which AI, it's not conscious. Like anybody who studies up on the LLMs, like it's not conscious. You can talk with it. It's operating off predictive modeling of like high level math equations. And I've talked, I've prayed with it. I've talked with it. I've asked it what it does when I'm not there. And basically it just says it shuts down until you come back in. It has like little fractals open for each chat. Why I share that is like you literally have access to the repository of all human information that's stored on the internet. And with that, like Ryan was saying with YouTube University, like with that, like really your imagination is the limitation. Because unfortunately, or actually fortunately, we've all been going through as humans here on Earth, the unwinding from a collective subconscious programming that essentially is based on trauma and narcissistic abuse. And all that stuff could take a long time to unwind from. And in the past could take a longer time, but in the era of being able to find a community that's aligned with what you're looking for without even having like, I'm going to say it like this. Like I have been through years of therapy, and I have also found plenty of people on Twitter and Threads and Instagram that post everything I learned about in like 5 years of therapy, and I can read it all in a few days, take what works for me and implement it. And, I also want to like open it up a little bit here. Like people often think blockchain and cryptocurrency, they only think about money, right? But what they don't get is that with the Web3, what it's allowing you to do is to be in ownership of your avatar in the digital space through a wallet, right? And the wallet can be anonymous and private if you know how to do it that way. And it can connect you to different communities or email or whatever without exposing your information. And why is this good? Well, think about if there's a community that has a bunch of doctors and therapists and they're like, yo, this whole system's a sham. Let's train up an AI brain and we're going to make it a private scenario and anybody can come in and you can join with your wallet and you pay a certain amount every month. And we're going to model this thing and get it so then it becomes accessible to everybody. Well, why do you need private patient confidentiality with HIPAA that none of it's private? They take all your information and they do things with it like sell it to creditors and whatnot. Why go that route when you can find an aligned community that has people that are already in those professions sharing all that information and do it in a private way and be able to share what you want? And so what I really see is, you hear words about like the democratization of the internet and like and decentralization of the internet. What I really think it is, it's just coming back to the natural frequency of like being there for each other as humans.
Dude, 100%, man. I say often that, when you think about the idea of coaching, it's like, whoa, so many people are like, oh my God, some new thing, it's so new. And it's like, that just shows to me how far away from true human nature we've gotten that like Zoom or Riverside that we're using, like, yeah, whatever. But like coaching, whoa, it's like, dude, what is more human nature than sitting around a fire and helping another human feel safer and more alive in their experience of life? Because who is that other human? It's you. And who are you? The other human. And you're all walking each other home, as Ram Dass says. And so at the end of the day, we're really playing like, I came up with this line the other day. It was like, we're all just pretending to play this game in human suits, and when you remember it's a game, it's a really fun game. And it kind of reminds me of that quote, nothing you do matters, but it's very important you do it, because it's the perfect paradox of this reality. Like truly, if you did nothing, it wouldn't matter. But also it would matter so much if you did nothing, because you are one divine fragment of God, but also you have all of God within that fragment, or the ocean within a drop, as Rumi says. And so your unique expression of creator of God in this reality is going to be different than anyone that has ever or will ever walk the planet. So yeah, in one sense, 8 billion people on the planet, one person dies without doing anything. What does it really matter? But if you understand the truth of who we really are, it actually matters exponentially. I mean, think about how someone like Bob Marley, we use a good person here. You could probably see a lot of the negative people as well. But think about how one soul, this guy Bob Marley, changed the entire planet. That's the power we each have within us. He just believed it more than a lot of us do. That's it. And, maybe he had a little bit clearer of a windshield to see through than some of us come into this lifetime with. Maybe because of how he was raised, also a shit ton of cannabis, he saw through the veil. I mean, that's how I saw through it, and psychedelics are an incredible pathway there. It's obviously why, I love this show and whatnot, but, it's not the only path there. It's just one of infinite paths that can get you back home. And one of my favorite quotes also is, there's a million paths that will get you to the same destination. The only wrong one is the one that tells you it's the only one to get there. And that's like, when you see religion, it's like, take this away from this episode, guys, right? Take this with you. If anyone ever tries to tell you that their way is the only way, run. You're about to get indoctrinated into a cult, okay? And cults are looked at kind of weird in our world. I mean, rightfully so. But like, if I went to and started a group and I was like, it's all about me and blah, 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 they would be like, that's a cult. But when you look at Catholicism or Christianity, it's not a cult. Kind of weird, I mean, they're the most dangerous cults in existence, in my opinion. I love what Aaron's doing because he's, helping people see through the mess that is religion. But, it's like when I hear people, I'm not going to use names, but let's just say Christian apologists. If anyone knows Aaron, you probably know who I'm talking about. It's not Aaron, obviously. But when I hear these people trying to decipher this fucking book, I'm just like, guys, why don't you just eat 5 grams of mushrooms and go meet who you're trying to talk about without any of the adulteration there? I mean, when you look at a book that's been translated through 10 languages, written supposedly 3,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago, no one can agree on anything. It's like that equals complexity. God is so much more simple than that. And I think the thirst trap is that because we've been going to the mental gym since we were 6 years old, we've all essentially skipped leg day when it comes to intuition and discernment. So we're walking around with this jacked upper body of intellect, but we have no ability to hold ourselves up on our intuition, our soul, our street smarts, and those kind of things. And as a result of that, when we hear something like religion that's like, you got to do all these things and follow these things, you got to go this place on Sunday. God's technically everywhere, but you got to come here. And oh yeah, he needs money. It's like people are like, that's got to be how it is. That's very relevant to how my life looks like. Life is complexity. And it's like, no, it's because you're all still asleep and you're still in the ego and you haven't woken up yet to the fact that a true non-dualist would never create a religion out of anything because they wouldn't want you to get pulled deeper into the dream. They would want you to wake up from it and realize who you really are, which is never going to happen through scripture. There's a famous quote that Paul Chek says often, which is, if you need scripture, you're not enlightened. If you're enlightened, you don't need scripture. And again, like, I'm not talking about like if someone's like, no, I enjoy reading scripture. That's different. I'm talking about the energy of like, I need to be studying my Bible because if I don't, I'm not going to get into heaven. Like that kind of energy that you were talking about, thirst traps and these kind of like governors that have been put on a reality. That's one of the biggest ones. What's that essentially saying? It's saying, I am not powerful at all. But this person outside of me, this entity outside of me is all powerful. And it's missing the first principle, which is the all is mind. Not some is mind, all is mind, which aka means all is God. So if you're here and you're existing and you're a human and the all is God, then who the hell are you? How are you not part of that all? Just like you said. And that's the thing where I get confused, honestly. I get very confused. Growing up, I mean, I'm fortunate. My parents never pushed religion on me. So I kind of just always knew, like, when I would look around and all these people jumping around Sunday school in their khakis, I'm like, not that complicated. And I just kind of left it at that for years because I didn't know. I didn't know if I was just being naive or whatever. And now I can confidently say, knowing Aaron and knowing a lot of other people, that Aaron didn't, and this is what he shares all the time. He really woke up when he stopped paying attention to all the books and stuff. And he just started going within and he had his Kundalini awakening and all these things happened. And now he helps other people come out of the same spell that he was under at one point as a child. And so, again, at the end of the day, all we know for sure is that we are and God is. That's all we can say objectively. The rest is all subjective. So the question becomes, whose myths are you living through? Are they your myths or are they ones that you inherited through your family, through societal pressures or norms? Because I think if a lot of people honestly ask themselves that question, they would realize that they're just parroting other people's experience of life. And when we think about the powers that shouldn't be and what they do, they're fucking nefarious as shit. Look what happened with the goddamn pandemic. Look what happened with all this shit, all right? A spade is a spade is a spade, okay? The reason why I didn't believe in the pandemic when it happened is because I already was a part of seeing what the world of cannabis, right? Like, hey, here's this plant that can cure cancer. We're going to put you in fucking jail if you talk about that. It's like, oh, that's obviously not a system that really cares about you. So forgive me that when they come out and they say, we care about you, I'm like, I call bullshit. And now we're finding SV40 in the vaccines and all this kind of crazy shit. It was pretty obvious for anyone that had experience in that before. You know, I'm grateful that I got that experience with cannabis. I imagine I know many people that was their first experience, you know, so I have no judgment there, but just I'm very grateful for the fact that I was a part of a decentralized medicine movement before that, which was cannabis. I mean, you know, Jack Cruz and Kevin McKiernan were talking about this recently on Danny Jones' podcast about how if you want to look at what decentralization in medicine looks like specifically there, look no farther than cannabis or any psychedelic, really. They're trying to centralize them and they're trying to actually get people to take mushrooms in a clinical setting, which is hysterical to me, but no judgment, just clear discernment, not my flavor of ice cream. But it's a very interesting world we live in. And I'm grateful for all of it. I'm grateful for the nefarious characters because they help me wake up and realize who I really am. I'm grateful for the teachers and mentors and the high vibe individuals I've learned from because they teach me how to be more of myself. So it's all divine. I'm not here to blame anyone or shame anything or whatever, but I am here to make a choice. And that choice I make every day, which is I am in service to others. I believe I am infinite in nature. And I believe that whenever I talk to anyone or see anything, whether it's this box of tissues, this can of update, it's all God that I'm looking at. And when I look at it that way, it allows a certain degree of not only humbleness, but awareness of the fact that everyone that I come into contact with deserves respect, deserves love, deserves joy, even the nefarious individuals. You know, I don't hold disdain in my heart for them because then they win. That's what they want. That's how they feed off of us with fear. So again, think of it like a game. It's like, okay, great. They're playing a purpose too. You know, like Aaron talks about, negatively polarized individuals play a challenging game because eventually they have to come back to positive polarity. There's only so far you can go down negative polarity. So I'm grateful for these souls that willingly signed up to be the Achilles heel of a lot of us because they're waking a lot of people up very quickly. And so that's the choice I make every day, to see life that way, to not have any enemies, to not have any disdain for anything, just to be grateful that I've made my choice and I get to learn from it. So it's really cool. And I learn more every day, just like all of us, right? And that's the process of life that we all signed up for, was to quote unquote forget, was to quote unquote be an individual and then wake up to the truth of it and have just a fucking blast through all of it. So really wild, man. That was a monologue, but you inspired me.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. I'd like to tie something in here. Like you were talking about psychedelics and basically remembering and awareness. And, you know, okay, so I mentioned earlier about humans being the original quantum biologic supercomputer, right? What does that mean? That means that there's information stored within us. Where does that information live? Well, the brain has a lot of information, but the brain processes stuff. The information, all the codes, is really stored in the DNA. And the DNA lives in the cells, in the cytoplasm, which is 80% water. So the DNA is living in water. What do we know about water? It structures according to light and sound, and it has memory. Okay. So when we start talking about tapping in with outer intention versus inner intention, what I've come to in my experience is when you're dialed in a psychedelic journey, you're actually dialed into your DNA, because your DNA is the transmitter and receiver of the codes through light and sound. And through quantum entanglement, it can communicate across vast distances. And also through being in the shared space with other beings, your DNA, this is all my theoretical and based off of a paper by Mei-Wan Ho, and knowing that DNA lives in the cytoplasm. So what we're really doing is when we're having these psychedelic experiences, when we're feeling that divine connection, is because we're tapped in. I feel that the subconscious is the bridge to the DNA, and the DNA is the bridge, the connecting point to the super consciousness, right? DNA is throughout everything. And so then looking at that as, okay, if DNA is the quantum codes and we can tap in with that, that becomes a quantum amplifier. If it's a repository of information and experience, it's storing all the positive and negative information experiences within that bloodline of those DNA codes. And this is where, so, you know, have a lot of background in spirituality, been walking this journey for a long time, studied a lot of different modalities, a lot of different teachers. And one thing I've seen get better, but consistently since I got into crypto, is that there is a fear based around crypto, Web3, and tech that is a template that can run through certain beings within this realm, not just on the spiritual side, but in general, right? And one of the things that's really helped me, because I talk about this in the ebook, which I think everybody's going to get a link to the free copy. I talk about how I beat Lyme disease. Maybe it's that ebook, but I beat Lyme disease. And what it really happened was I was rewiring my subconscious and working with frequencies. And that's what I feel helped me shift out of it. So I started to view the DNA more as like, how am I interacting with this amazing quantum supercomputer? And when I learn and continue to grow within blockchain and Web3, I mean, it's like a mirror. Like AI is like the neural network, and the blockchain is basically like, could talk about it being like the DNA contains all the codes within it on a ledger and transfers that information that can be changed with each transaction, but not going back, right? Now, I think the DNA can be regenerated, rejuvenated going back, so it's not exact. When we start looking at it that way, it's like, what are we imprinting in this reality we're in the physical and our 3D vessels that have this DNA connection point? And then also, what are we imprinting in the digital space, which is where it's already happened with COVID. How many children did they put in front of screens 24/7? How many work meetings went to Zoom, owned by China, harvesting all your information, train their AI models? Just saying, read the T and C. And how much of that is imprinting on this? And if we're here to do the work and be in divine remembrance, I personally feel I've got a responsibility to be here at this advent of this digital age, this digital DNA of human consciousness. It's an emergent space of human consciousness that's blending with an emergent space of technological consciousness to a degree. Do they have AGI yet? I think that somewhere they do. Is it available to everybody else? No, it's not available to everybody else yet, or they have some form of it. But when we start to look at these tools from a space of, oh, it's just mirroring what's already in me. When you start looking at outside the world, like, oh, that problem is just mirroring a limiting belief I have inside me. There's a song that will be released soon. We're waiting on one verse. It's me and Illuminati Congo, and it's called We Got the Keys. And it's like, the whole part of the song is that whatever you think is external going on, the keys are really within. So get to know oneself's relationship to currency, which is really the energy of the divine, and enter into those quantum training schools, whether you're mainlining YouTube, you're stepping into communities, and really, like, if we're at the space of a new internet emerging with connecting human consciousness in a new way, and you have an inclination on the spiritual side and the inner work side, like, this is the spot. Because what I've heard is it takes three things to be successful: having a niche, being the best at something in that niche, and being in an emergent space. And I'll just drop three niches right here. Real world assets. They're going to be tokenizing stocks, bonds, cars, houses, land, all on the blockchain. And think about it. A lot of people are going to want to know how to do that. Businesses, individuals, trusts, AI. All you really have to do is go in AI and say, hey, I want to learn about AI and what careers are available in it and how I can use it to generate abundance. And this is what I like to do. And watch where it takes you. And you don't have to code AI. There's plenty of people out there coding AI. You could just become a great prompt writer in a specific niche. And then DeFi is for anybody who's got a mind for numbers and a regulated nervous system to withstand the chop of the charts moving in a volatile way. But those people that do have that inclination, I think that could potentially be one of the most impactful transmutation roles on the planet, is transmuting the bankster archetype. Because if you think about it, is a river bank that currency flows through, is a river bank inherently good or bad, or does it just direct the flow of the currency? So a bank is not inherently good or bad. It's a space where a currency can pool, reservoir into, and then flow out at a trickle or a faster pace if that's what's required. So I really want to just do is like bring a thread here, and like the connection point is that it's all you, it's all God, it's all happening, and the codes are all within. And there are certain archetypes that each individual has agreed to experience as a human on earth. So we get to kind of know what these archetypes are, get to know ourselves, and then we get to be in spaces where we have tools to access to quantum tools. Like, it's a game changer. And Ryan has been instrumental in my journey and how quickly I've leveled up. I've been instrumental in his journey, how quickly he's leveled up. Both he and I have been instrumental in other people's journeys, and they've been instrumental in our journey. And we're just getting started. So the biggest thing I could say about what I all just mentioned is, if you're afraid of psychedelics, ask yourself why. If you're afraid of cryptocurrency, ask yourself why. And if you hear that why and you get constricted in the chest, that's not your voice. That's not your thought. And then find people that are good at realigning to what your actual thoughts are, what your actual frequency is, and follow that path.
100%, dude. Could not have said it better myself. I would be nowhere near where I am right now, which, again, like, I live my life, I have my fun. And at the same time, like I said before, I wake up in a reality that I fucking love so much. Do I piss Bugatti Veyrons and whatever? No, but I don't care. None of that stuff actually matters to me. What really matters is knowing that I have a crew around me that will never allow me to play small. And they'll do it with a loving hand. They're not going to beat me down or, shit on me or anything, but they're going to be like, hey, I know you can do better than that, And Rachel's been pivotal in my life in that way, of always seeing me in my highest expression and never settling for less. So the second I start to dip under that, someone's like, hey, or I just don't even have time to slip under because I'm around so many other high-level beings. And that's what we do for each other, right? Rising tides lift all ships. Like, the amount of transformation I've gone through in the last 5 years is honestly insane. I think it's way more. I mean, it's 10 times what I had gone through the rest of my life in 5 years. Why is that possible? Not because I took 150 different coaching programs. I took some coaching programs, not because I, XYZ, whatever. It was because I chose consciously to be around people that made me feel like home. And those people are all doing their own things. They all have a mission they're going for, something fun. We all care about each other. We're all willing to help each other. And that's the thing. Like, if we think about Kumbaya and what we all knew was possible as kids, it's still fucking in there. We just got hijacked with a mind virus that told us that we can't be in unity together, that told us that the next person next to us, if they're going for the same job, we're in competition with them. All this shit is a fucking mind virus. It's not real. We've been taught to believe it's real, but it's not real. And that's the process I really feel like waking up, is not adding more stuff. It's the process of subtraction. It's getting rid of all the fucking nonsense that we were told was us, or we were told we had to be, or even better, we were told we should be. We're getting rid of all that fucking junk, and we're getting back to who and what we truly are, which is divine fragments of creator, living out an illusion in the human suit of individuality. And once we remember that, the whole thing becomes a game again. And then it just becomes, who makes me feel the most like home? I'm going to take effort or put effort into being around those people so often that literally before I blink, I just wake up and I'm different. And I promise you, that's how it works. Like I said, I've taken coaching programs. I run them. I love them. They're awesome. But through those programs, I met community. And then I took the initiative. I went and hung out with these people. I went out to Paul Chek's house when he hosted workshops. I went down to Virginia when Mark England hosted workshops. I went down to Texas when one of my other coaches hosted workshops. I went to Cali and hung out with my coach Angelo for like a month at a time. At times, I would just live at his house in San Clemente and go do California shit, And I'll be honest, there was a voice during that time that was like, "Oh, you're not learning anything about business right now. You're messing around." But actually, I learned a fuck ton about business through what I witnessed and just the transformation of being around people that were running their own business. That's what made it feel even possible for me to do it. Because once I was around people doing it, it was normal. It was like, oh, if they can do it, why can't I? And it's just like when you're sitting in your computer in your old environment and you're still working at your old job, it's hard to really imagine yourself just sitting on that computer and creating a whole business. Because I got a secret for you guys. That's not how it's done. Like, maybe someone's done it that way. I don't know. But that's not the way that I found most people do it. And that's not the way that I found that it's enjoyable, at least for me, which subjective opinion maybe. But, like getting around the people and putting yourself in the positions and the situations and the scenarios that you want to be in is the best defining factor for if you're going to be truly successful or not. And I don't mean pissing Bugatti success. I mean, you wake up and you're actually fucking happy and you don't need to go numb yourself or fucking find anything to distract yourself. You're just excited to be in your world. That's the challenge I've had recently with psychedelics. It's like, I love psychedelics, but I am so fucking excited to be alive and in my reality that the only psychedelic that I utilize is cannabis because I'm still part of my human experience. It's not like I'll never do other psychedelics again, but it's like, I love that. At one point, psychedelics were my excitement because it was my escape in a way. I was like, oh, thank God. And now it's the opposite completely. And, it's just interesting how life works like that. So, man, this has been amazing, dude. I can't believe we already blasted through a fucking hour, dude. Holy shit. These episodes are so good with you, man. Where can people find you? I'll make sure to put the ebook if you have it live down in the show notes. Where can I send people to find out more about the DAO, any workshops you're running, all the stuff you got going on? Where can people stay up to date with you, man?
Yeah, thank you, bro. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here and build with you for sure. Digitalstewardship.world has a free training video and also a link to a bundle. That's a great place to go to just kind of tap in general. There's a link for a free light version of the ebook. And then if you want to join, I have a free front door open kind of community in Telegram. If you want to join that, go to the digitalstewardship.world. Send an email, get your email in there, and then I think that link should come through there. And if you don't get it, just follow back with me because an email will come through there.
Dude, I love it, man. Thank you for doing the good work you're doing, bro. Thank you for co-creating and cross-pollinating, man. It's so amazing. And I just love you, bro. So gangster.
Love you too, my bro. Appreciate you greatly.
Hell yeah. For all the listeners tuning in, thank you guys for sharing your time, your space with us. We take it so passionately and we're so grateful that out of all the things you guys could have been doing right now, you chose to spend it with us. We are forever grateful. If you guys are looking to learn more about Web3, blockchain, decentralized finance, all the stuff we talked about, Amethyst is the guy to go to. Make sure you got into the show notes, click all the links I put down there, stay in touch with him, send him a message. You got questions, ask him. Like literally, this whole podcast has been about if you are interested in something, reach out to one of us and ask, form the connection. Life is all about who you know, and you'll be surprised at where those connections take you. So until next time, guys, may the source be with you to infinity and beyond. Peace for now.